Hello everyone and welcome into another edition of WST Weekly. My name is Connor Rabchak. We've got a ton to get to on today's episode. The Bombers picked up a massive win at home over the Edmonton Elks, and the Winnipeg Jets completed another week of training camp, some preseason games, some injuries, some roster cuts to talk about. I'm going to cover it all. Let's start with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers putting up 55 points on the Edmonton Elks on Friday night. The Blue Bombers absolutely dominated the Edmonton Elks on Friday night, putting up 55 points, and the sold-out crowd at Princess Auto Stadium was feeling it. There was one point in this game where the Bombers were up 31-0 with 8 minutes left in the second quarter. Just an absolute clinic from the offense, and Zach Collaros, easily that unit's best game of the season. 55 points is obviously a season high for the Bombers, and they now sit in first place in the West. They did before, but they extended their lead that much more, and they clinched a playoff spot with this victory. And now the clear goal down the stretch here is to just clinch the first seed in the Western Division, which they are right now, and they can get that home playoff game in the West Final at Princess Auto Stadium. Like I said, this was an absolute clinic from the offense. 526 net yards, 22 first downs, only allowed the one sack, and didn't turn the ball over once, as opposed to Edmonton's 3. And if you remember last week, Edmonton turned the ball over 6 times in that game where the Bombers were on the road. Now they come to Princess Auto Stadium and turn the ball over 3 times. That's 9 turnovers forced by the Bombers defense over these past 2 games. And these past 2 games were clutch in the Bombers schedule, getting the tiebreaker over the Elks, which now doesn't matter because they've got both wins and they're now in the 1 seed comfortably as we head down the stretch here. But the offense finally clicking on all cylinders. It was an incredible night at Princess Auto Stadium, and the Bombers will look to make it 8 straight wins next week in Hamilton. If you want to watch them live at Princess Auto Stadium, you've got one more chance in the regular season, October 11th. That's a Friday night against the Toronto Argonauts, and that game actually collides with the Jets home opener that same night. The Jets, Blackhawks at Canada Life Center. It's their home opener, so fans are going to have to pick and choose that night between the Jets and the Bombers, but there's one more home regular season game before hopefully we're seeing the Bombers play in the West Final at Princess Auto Stadium. Here's the Winnipeg Jets news of the week. They completed another week of training camp, got through some preseason games, and they got some more bad news on the blue line. Ville Heinola, we already know that he's out long term. He got another surgery on the ankle after the infection came up last week. And now Logan Stanley's going to be out at least a month, as he also got surgery on his knee, repairing his meniscus. Scott O'Neill saying this isn't how he drew it up, having 2 defensive injuries this early on in training camp, but the Jets will have to fight through it. Hayden Fleury is probably the odds-on favorite to step in on that third pair alongside Colin Miller, but 2 younger left-handed shot defensemen, depth defensemen in the Jets lineup are now out at least a month each. Number 2, Cole Perfetti signed his contract, a 2-year, $3.25 million AAV deal. This came on Monday after the first weekend of Winnipeg Jets training camp. He even played in a game Friday night. The Jets had a game Wednesday. They beat the Oilers 6-1. And then Friday night in Minnesota, Cole Perfetti made his debut, and the Jets lost that one 8-5. But still, great to see Cole Perfetti back on the ice, back in game action after the contract took a little bit longer than everyone was expecting. Number 3, new look special teams. Scott O'Neill brought up in training camp that Kyle Connor and Mark Scheifele are going to be killing penalties this year, and potentially even Nikolai Ehlers in the future. This gives the Jets a new look on the penalty kill, some more speed and skill, maybe even a bit of a power kill, as they can maybe generate some chances. That's not the goal of the penalty kill, but with their speed and the ability to jump into passing lanes, this gives the Jets a new look. And speaking of new looks, Nikolai Ehlers was on the top power play unit. He was in the bumper high slot position. Mark Scheifele was in his usual spot on the wall. Josh Morrissey up top, Kyle Connor on the right circle, and then Gabriel Velarde. We know he's dynamic at the side of the net, but that is the new look power play one. Nikolai Ehlers spoke after practice one day as to which players he's learning from in that bumper position. He brought up Braden Point, Sam Reinhart, Patrice Bergeron, and Sebastian Aho are all players he's watched film on to try and improve and ready himself for that spot this year. I think this is a great idea, putting Nikolai Ehlers on the power play. Get your most dynamic players on your top unit, and good things will happen. Number 4, roster cuts continue. The Jets made 5 more roster cuts Sunday morning. Parker Ford, Dominic DiVincentis, and Daniel Torgerson were assigned back to the Manitoba Moose, and prospects Braden Yeager and Colby Barlow were assigned back to their junior teams. Now, just one quick note on Brayden Yager. I will say he looked great in the games, but he also looked really good in the training camp skates. Really impressed me as a skater. We know his shot is incredible. Liz Hood and I did a WST deep dive on him about a month ago. Go check that out if you haven't already. But Brayden Yager, Colby Barlow headed back to junior, and the other 3 players headed back to the Manitoba Mute. Now we're going to get into the 3 stars of the week, but before we do that, make sure you hit the like button on the video, the subscribe, and the notification bell so you don't miss all the great content that we're putting out on the WST YouTube channel, as Jets season is right around the corner. Liz Hood, Jacob Stoller, and I just launched a brand new show Sunday mornings at 9 a.m. It's called WST Sunday Live. It's a live show, so join us next Sunday, and it's an hour plus full of Winnipeg Jets talk. We've had great feedback on the first 2 episodes, and we hope to see you there next Sunday, 9 a.m. for episode 3. My 3rd star of the week is Bombers wide receiver Nick Demski. He's one of the many wide receivers that benefited from such an offensive explosion. 4 receptions, 117 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Incredibly efficient with his touches as well. He set the tone in the game, scoring the first touchdown for the Bombers on kind of a busted coverage. He was wide open in the end zone and obviously added another touchdown. A great game for Nick Demski, Bombers wide receiver. He's my 3rd star of the week. My 2nd star of the week is the guy who was all over your social media feeds this week. Kenny Lawler made about 3 absurd catches in this game. His touchdown late in the game where he jumped over the defensive back, caught the ball, and just barely got 1 foot in bounds. He had the one-hand snag, basically taking away an interception from a defensive back, and he had 8 catches, 130 yards, 2 touchdowns, 16.3 yards per catch. Incredible game from Kenny Lawler, easily his best of the season, as he made multiple highlight reel catches and put up a very productive stat line in the process. He's my 2nd star of the week. And my 1st star of the week, Zach Collaros. He throws 6 touchdown passes in the game against the Edmonton Elks, 21 for 26, so very efficient with his passing, 432 yards, through a couple bomb touchdowns that really contributed to that number, 6 touchdowns like I said, and 0 interceptions. Earlier in the year, the biggest problem plaguing the Bombers offense was fumbles, interceptions, turnovers at inopportune times, and they're really turning that around lately. 0 turnovers in this game. Zach Collaros, 0 interceptions. A great game from the Bombers offense, really about as great as you can get, and Zach Collaros was at the middle of it all. 6 touchdown passes for Zach Collaros. He's my 1st star of the week. Here it is, the upcoming sports schedule here in Winnipeg over the next week. Like I said earlier, the Bombers are going to travel to Hamilton to take on the Tiger Cats. The Ticats, they're playing their best football of the season right now, so this will not be an easy game by any means. The Bombers looking to clinch first place in the West down the stretch here, so this is a big game in the CFL. That one is Friday, October 4th. The Winnipeg Jets, they will wrap up their preseason this week with a home against the Calgary Flames. The first one is at Canada Life Center here in Winnipeg, Wednesday, October 2nd at 7 p.m. And then the second one is Friday in Calgary to wrap up the preseason. Then we'll see some roster cuts and we will see the team finalize ahead of next week when they open the season Wednesday, October 9th against the Edmonton Oilers on the road. And the U of M Bisons football team, I have to give them a shout out here because they are 5-0 for the first time since 2007, and they'll look to make it 6-0 on Friday, October 4th on the road against the Saskatchewan Huskies, a prairie rivalry. They'll look to make it 6 straight wins to begin the season, a great start to the year for the U of M Bisons football team. That's going to do it for this edition of WST Weekly. Thank you so much for watching the video right to the end. If you made it this far, hit the like button, the subscribe, and the notification bell so you don't miss this video every single Monday morning. I will see you all Sunday at 9 a.m. for WST Sunday Live with myself, Liz Hood, and Jacob Stoller, and next Monday on the next edition of WST Weekly. Enjoy the games this week, everyone. Have a great week, and I will see you all on Sunday morning.